be a perfect meat and cheese table type person.
I think it's like a charcuterie board
Couch
slash table, but
table.
he looks like a little dog. So it's kind of, he's got like, he's like a mascot now. So
Think about it, right? Actually, if it was a bit bigger, it'd be great just to go over your legs. You know, like those old trays.
we mentioned that Wales. We'll
I
put Wales
did,
on
but like,
Gordon.
it just needs to. I mean, if it had extendable legs, you just sort of bring it up a little bit so it can just sit over your lap.
So you push in, then you click it up. You go right. Do you want one notch or three? You know, like Martin
Yeah,
stalls,
totally.
right? Like that.
I'm having soup. Put it up quite high.
Yeah.
It could be like it looks a bit like actually some skis for like a yeti or something. Like some massive animal that wants to go and ski. And if you get another one,
It's got some. It's I mean, it's quite a unique shape, but yeah. Long story.
It's the iconic mascot of the podcast.
I mean, we've mentioned it before, haven't we? So I just want to keep that in. I think we're moving.
Am I doing it again?
Aye,
Are you trying to cancel me out of the podcast?
Cancel it out of your own podcast.
Is that better?
We'll see how loud that's going to get outside there, James. Did you? So,
aye.
300.
The hackers though.
We've got 300 builders.
Hacker.
They did a hacker dance earlier on, and we w're like, "Oh, how loud is this going to be?" The Maori.
I'm very mad a hacker.
I don't know. Hacker.
It's got a
Are you doing the hacker?
The hacker. It
A
sounds like
Macam hacker, aye.
Yeah.
Should be a Macam hacker.
But he was kind of Jack, that guy, wasn't he?
That just sounds like Jack the Ripper, doesn't it? To be fair, like Macam hacker.
Hacker.
Jack of the Macam hacker.
Oh,
sorry.
no,
That's
hang
a good
on,
one.
phone ping. There you go.
That's
Yeah.
never ever allowed that, no.
Well, it shows
Just
you
look up and look at Alice's face. She'll be furious with you.
Yeah, that's all right. Look at my face because I'm editing this thing. I'm going to tidy this thing up, James.
The first episode we ever did of this, I sat and I didn't turn my phone off, and I had this on, and I'm just sitting here like that, and it's not very popular now like that. Like,
No, but the fact is that when you're looking at the edit, you don't realise that your eyes are glancing down all the time. So you're doing all of that, and then you get into I've got to cut around that.
it looks rude, but I only do it because I know for a fact that sometimes you think you've been talking for about 45 minutes,
I know.
and you go, oh, 2 hours 15.
Yeah.
You did.
It's crazy, you know, how talking
No,
just
because,
seems
like,
to dilate
Totally,
time.
because we start talking like this, right? And there's no hard introduction, so you just
Yeah, I
start
know.
chatting straight away.
I know.
And then we always get around to that menu, but it's almost like an afterthought because we
Yeah.
go, shit, we've only got 10 minutes left.
Right, we're an hour in. Let's go to the menu, and then another 35 minutes later. Yeah,
On one question.
Yeah, because we'll go down on some rabbit holes, like. But so, have you met James before?
We met at the
When we're having that
When
little
we're having a
sneaky
little
peek of that place.
Sneaky Peak,
Yeah.
aye.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We had a little,
We had
we had a
Quakers
little,
building.
little recce of that building.
Mm.
The pigeon building.
The
Pigeon building,
aye.
yeah.
Aye.
Yeah,
The old
Pigeon
pigeon
City.
building.
Yeah.
It's like-
Well, yeah. I was going to say, because I've interviewed James before, and I know his story.
I
and-
don't at all, apart
Well,
from what you've told me, Dan.
Well, that's the thing, and I would love James to kind of tell a bit of his story, what you're doing, what you're about, and then I'll just start giving you loads of compliments, James. So.
Sounds class, mate. I love compliments.
Yeah.
No,
Can you
I'm
take them or not?
horrible for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm horrible for it. It's I think I'm one of them people who's like, I think typical, probably northeast or typical bloke, I don't know, but hate taking compliments. And I think one of the things I've probably learned about myself is I'm very bad at like taking stock and looking back and going, oh, actually that was good, you know. I never do that. But I also think it's can be a good trait as well, because I think it means I don't stop, if you know what I mean. I think like, okay, my job's done. Like,
Yeah.
I just always think, well, I know I've got more to do. Like, I don't feel like I've done anything yet. It's,
Yeah.
It's good for motivation, but it can kind of destroy your own mindset trying to do it. Do you know what I mean? Is there a balance in that, James? Because it's very much who you are and what you're doing. I think it's related to that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's because I probably don't consider what I do as like a task, if you know what I mean. So, like, if you start a job or a task or a project, you've got a beginning, a middle, end. Let's evaluate how it went.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like a vocation. It's became a life. It's became a lifestyle. It's became, for all the good and bad, it's became almost my identity to a degree, which, is probably, there's, as I said, there's positives and negatives to that. So I don't know. I think my own persona, my own the way I'm built, I feel like is just now anyway. It just feels like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you do then, James, so I'm completely clear, because I want to understand why. Because it's like, like anybody gets involved in like a passion project, it's really hard to like separate yourself out from it, and like you say, it just becomes your entire identity. It's who you are. It's what you're doing. There's no kind of going home from work because it begins to own you. So I want to understand why and what it is that you.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I definitely resonate with a lot of that. So the business I run, or I hate calling it a business, but I guess it is. It is a business. It's called Space Northeast, and we support men with depression, stress, loneliness, anxiety. So, I mean, it all started through my own struggles. From the age of about 16, I started to feel a little bit weird. Now, I haven't got a sob story. I haven't got a life where I was like, oh, this was terrible. I have 2 amazing parents, and I've got 2 older brothers and a little sister, all of which are still like best mates. Really, really close, and I feel really lucky about that. Grew up in a, normal family home. My dad was a bricklayer. My mum sort of was like, worked on and off with different jobs. I mean, she worked for schools and all sorts. And my mum's a lovely, very people person. I think I take after my mum in that sense. So, life was very normal for me. But when I was a child, I guess it's important to say that, I was extremely enthusiastic and very like full of life. That was always that was just me, and but I think I soon learned at a young age that this wasn't a conscious choice. It was totally unconscious. But I cared about what people thought about me. And I think I probably experienced it. And it's only, I guess, through years of talking about this and thinking about my life that I came to understand it. But shame was a part of my life. And I didn't know that until recently. So the first experience of that, and I will circle around, this all circles back to why I do what I do, is I went to downhill when I was about, I must have been 8, I think. Went to downhill with St. Leonard's, my primary school. And me being like centre of attention, it was like, we're doing it, let's do the time walk. Do you remember the song, Let's Do the Time Walk? Yeah. Loving it. I was like sweating, just like doing like right in the middle, at the front, loving life, like trying to make people laugh. And there was this guy, and he worked for downhill. He's one of the instructors. And I was doing this, loving my life. And I mean, definition of not a care in the world. I was just totally in my own head, loving it. And this guy was looking at us, and I've seen this look in other people before, since I should say. But he was looking at me, and when it finished, I sort of walked over to him because he was looking at us. I wasn't like starting on him. I was like 8, but I walked over to him, and he went, it was in a really condescending way. He said, "You're really enthusiastic, aren't you?" That's what he said to us. And I remember just shrinking inside of myself. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't realise, but now I look back and I was like, I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed of my own personality, of me being so like out there and a bit extroverted. And similar things happened like that throughout my life. Through people I hung about with, if I was a bit loud or a bit out there, people would do the same thing, and maybe that says more about them than it does about me.
Yeah.
Did those moments stick out to you though, James?
Yeah,
it sounded like it stuck with you.
Oh, mate, totally.
But was that 8-year-old James? Was there anything leading up to that point that you were conscious of, or was that just literally that moment in isolation where you had that instructor?
Natural instinct.
Yeah. One moment.
Yeah. It was like, I've been doing a lot of reading, and I guess I hadn't read a book until I was like, when I say I'd read a book through school and stuff like that, but I'd never really sat down and read a book for myself before. Yeah. I'd never read from cover to cover until I was about 29, which is crazy. Yeah. But I've done a lot of reading since I started Space, and I tried to change my identity a little bit. And I was reading a book, and it was all about like, how we develop as humans, where we came from, and how society and social status plays into why we behave the way we do. And I think back, and I think, that was me finding my place amongst peers, and me finding my place in the world. And it was somebody who'd been around longer than me and putting me down. And I guess as I've grown up, I've seen that more and more in little microcosms of society all over the place. And it's crazy to think that was the first instance of me feeling that element of shame about myself. And there were quite a few more as I grew up. And I always used to say to myself, I didn't care what people think. But you do. I think you do. And I did care what people thought. And for a long time, that shaped my teenage years. which ultimately led to my depression, I think.
It stops you expressing yourself, James. It's almost like it's like a damper on your personality, and it pulls you back to stop you expressing who you really are.
But rewires you though. You get it's almost like because I've had similar situations in my life, and it's like there's only really any one, like that one moment with the instructor, right? When you're 8. Everything else becomes like a duplication of that one moment.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know
what
exactly.
you mean. The muscle memory and the sort of trauma in your own body and brain.
Yeah.
Each event that happens after that always feels the same as the first one.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
I best not, because somebody might say the same thing again. I don't want to feel like that, and then that stops you.
Yeah, it does. Right. I mean, how many people do you say are like? It's the whole thing like singing in the shower, isn't it? We all sing in the shower because there's nobody around, and it's just like you're free of that judgment. It's there's no consequence to it. You're just enjoying it and being a human being.
Where do you think it comes from though, in another person? Because it's a really sensitive thing for me as well to talk about, because I was a very similar person to you, I guess, when I was growing up, because I was quite outgoing and loud, and I was always around people who would always try to rein that in, or stamp it out a little bit, but it was never very overt. It was always quite subtle and oh, listen to you, enjoying yourself, you know, like, and it starts to sort of you becoming conscious of that shame, and then almost going on a journey where you're always trying to redefine who you are.
Are you a people pleaser, would you say?
Yeah, oh yeah, massively.
Massively. I think for me, piping in on this one was like, I was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Then it even let that out in the first place.
Yeah.
So you didn't know who you were. You couldn't express who you were. And when you did, just that little inch, someone would push it back in the cupboard. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. So I just didn't speak for, do you know what I mean? For like most of you kind of youth,
think,
you know.
I think that's probably somewhere in between. My moment, do you mind just telling you this? Because I had a moment when I was at school. I was younger. I had just started. I would have started primary school. I went to primary school in Hebburn, a school called St. Oswald's. It must have been, I think it was reception class. So I was young as well. So like when I say young within the year.
Yeah.
So I was an August baby, right? So I remember getting dropped off at school by it was my mum and my grandma, and the fire doors of the classroom backed out onto the front of the school, so you could see the drop-off point where the parents were standing, right? So I remember it must have been the first day, because I can remember the sort of, the emotional pull of not wanting to be in a place, right? Yeah. And I remember sitting down, right? And I still remember the teacher's name. I'm not going to mention her because she'll probably break her heart if she knows. But I remember sitting, and it was a moment for me that defined lots of parts of my life, being like a 6-year-old. And I was sitting on a chair, the little tiny school chairs, desperate for a piss, like desperate. And I kept on putting my hand up, and she kept ignoring me, right? So I put my hand back down again, and I was thinking, I still remember physically the feeling. I'm gonna have to go to the toilet, but they wouldn't let you. Obviously at school, then you had to put your hand up. You had to be, and I peed myself, right, and nobody knew. But it was a big pool all over the floor, and I remember, like literally, do you know when you used to shuffle on a school chair? I was trying to sort of rub it into the floor so that nobody could see it. As soon as the teacher spotted it, she made the class look, and they went up in like a complete uproar, laughter. And I remember that day, like I swear to God, I still get the same feeling now. If I've got to put my hand up or speak out loud, I get the same feeling that I had in that classroom on that day.
Wow.
That sense of shame. Do you know what I mean? And like escape or flight or fight.
I feel exactly how you feel.
No, completely.
I can feel how that feels.
But it rests, like if I stand up in public, if I do a talk or do a speech, or I still feel the same thing.
It's somebody
mad
calling you out for you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Look at the person.
But it's the sliding doors, though, isn't it? Like imagine that instructor didn't do that to you, or that teacher didn't do that to me. What course could you like provide down?
Do you know what? That
pivot moments, isn't it?
It is, and exactly what you've just said about that sliding doors moment. It's everything that we base everything that we do on is about. There's lots. We go back through life, and there's lots of these sliding doors moments for all of us. Some of them negative. If you're fortunate enough to be living a life that feels good, we can look upon those experiences as being really beneficial ultimately, because you think, well, or it's not even beneficial, but they've been useful to some degree. But what we try and do is we can say, well, okay, why don't we create some of our own sliding doors moments?
Yeah.
So in 30 years' time, say, let's call him Dave, says, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for that group back then, you know, sitting with his grandkids on his knee, and like, these are, I would call them like a shadow benefit, you know, like these are things where you help somebody, and this is not just something Space can do, this is something anybody can do. You got your way to help somebody, you don't know how important that is for that person to help them.
Of course.
You don't know what you've given them. And ultimately, it's an investment you make in somebody else that you'll never see the return on. But they do. And in 30 years' time, that arm around the shoulder, that conversation might mean a grandchild gets to sit on the knee of a granddad for somebody who might not have been there at one point, or for somebody who might not have taken that, you know, they might have been through a really tough time and things would have been so different. You can never underestimate how powerful that is and how impactful that is.
I don't think you can. I think this came up when we did the John Kirtley podcast. Because I don't think that, like, society can be quite harsh.
Yeah.
And not deliberately either. You know, like, so when you look at education, or wherever you're in your community, whether you're at home with your family or with friends and peers, or whether you're at school, like, I don't think people realise how, like, one incident can, like, shape somebody else's future, like a bit of meanness or bad feedback or badly delivered feedback. Or if you're a teacher who, I mean, I used to have PE teachers that used to, like, kick you if you were overweight and stuff like that, you know, like, you're talking like the early 90s, and they got away with it. Some people were lucky enough to come out of it and go one way, and it made them, and you know, but other people went the other way.
Because it's about the person who can handle that or can't handle that. And it's how emotionally you are and attached to that. Like yourself, James, you've thought about that every single day in those moments, every single day. Somebody else, it's just like water off a duck's back kind of thing. But for somebody else, those flipping comments stick with them. Totally. You always remember those things. You know, we've all got them. I've got them, like a million of them in my life. And it's just, there's too many to kind of bring up. But it's that, if you're a sensitive soul, that's going to affect you more than somebody who isn't. So, but you can't, again, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, you can't walk around not saying anything and kind of keep that in.
No, would I want anybody to do that, you know?
But you have to implement positive stuff, like you say in yourself, the other conversation, which can counteract that other sliding door. Do you know what I mean? So you got that balance right. It gives them some kind of positive outlook on life. And we out of that situation.
I think that's really powerful. What you just said, that shadow benefit thing, and also, like, one sliding door moment doesn't have to be the one that defined you. You can actually create another one.
But it is creating more of that. So then it overpowers the bad ones. You know what I mean? And
that's exactly
it,
it.
So,
I think, you know, like, not. I mean, there's more stuff that's happened in my life that I guess I would attribute to more where I am now. But you know, you can swear on here, can't I?
Yeah. Over it.
It's like a big fuck you to a lot of people in it. It's like, and that's not why I do anything. But at the same time, you go like, well, you know, the people who would treat you like that, and the people who would. There's countless times as things have happened in my life where I've thought, like, where people have tried to make me feel as small as possible. And now I think, like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, in the nicest way possible. But I say that, and if those people came to us and wanted some support, I'd give them it.
Yeah, you would, yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
You have
to. You've got to say, well, at the end of the day, everybody is just dealing with their own stuff. That guy who said that to me, for him to say that to an 8-year-old child, I think it's probably dealing with some serious issues himself, maybe, or some, I don't know, God knows what he had going on. But I know, because the thing is that there was times as I grew up when I was unhappy, where I would see people who were happy, and I would feel the way that I think he would have felt watching me.
And
it wasn't conscious, but I would almost resent people who felt happy.
No, I totally understand that.
I would resent them.
But did you feel? I mean, I totally understand that. But did you feel it's almost like having like a dualistic life? Because I used to feel that way, and sometimes I still do. But I feel the guilt and the weight of that guilt at the same time for thinking it.
I totally get it. And I feel that too. I feel, you know, we're only human, and the thing that I always try and remind people of is, you know, especially when we do talks, like if we do talks to kids, we give them like a bit of a brief history of humanity, where we came from, because I think it's so important. Because you look where we are now, and we take for granted so much of what is around us. The fact that we've even got central heating or water that comes out the wall, you know what I mean? That is just, if you'd have said that to someone 500 years ago, they would have been like, what? You've got a device in your pocket that has the answer to every question you can possibly imagine within a millisecond.
Yeah.
What's that? You know, so what I try and do is I try and reframe for kids to understand where we came from. So, you know, thinking about you feeling guilty about that, and I'd do the same. You know, if you think we've been around as humans for 500,000 years, modern humans, it's not a very long time. 500,000 years ago, you know, we were at that divergent point between our ancestors and who we are now, common ancestors. Their brains were very different to ours, and they were hardwired for very different behaviour. You know, if we think about what we do now, a threat for us now would be, am I going to lose my job? Yeah. You know, does my manager like this? You know, where's the next paycheck come from? Whatever.
Battery on my phone's nearly gone flat.
These are threats that we deal with now. Yeah, but our
the same response in the brain, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Yeah, but I mean, if the threats back then for an early human were very different, but the threat response is the same. You know, so when you talk about feeling guilt for these things, you know, to a degree, we've got parts of our brain are ancestral. You know, they're quite old, and you know, it's like the chimp paradox. And if you've read the chimp paradox, it's a really interesting book because it talks about your limbic brain and how actually there's a chimp in your brain almost. It's the thing that acts without reason and logic. So you know, sometimes there aren't going to be reasons or logic to why you think the way you do, and ultimately you aren't your thoughts. Yeah. As much as we feel we are, our thoughts are immaterial. It's not who you are.
But you having that knowledge and understanding, does that help you every day? And can you relay this back to other people as well to help them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really go into sort of what books and stuff I've read to a degree. You know, what really benefits people, I think, and you know, what I feel I'm really comfortable talking about is, you know, my own experience. Because I think I try and be a role model to people, and to say, you know, no matter what you've done, no matter where your life's been, you know, it doesn't define you. There's obviously restrictions within this, but I would always say, like, you know, you're as bad as your worst mistake. That obvious things, connotations about that, but you know, I wouldn't say the same thing. Adam Johnson, obviously, but he is as bad as his worst mistake. But I think, you know, when we're talking to people, if they're talking about, you know, some people might have cheated on a partner, or they've done something they're not proud of, or something they feel guilty about, you know, it's always about where you're going. You know, where's your life pointing? And so we've got lads who come to use our services who've, you know, been everywhere, done all sorts of things they are proud of, things they aren't proud of, but ultimately it's about, okay, well, I make a choice to learn from those mistakes and do something better with my life.
I kind of brought you up the other day, James, in a conversation. It's like with the council, and we're talking about the system and mental health system, and it's really hard to kind of get yourself on appointments to get help, and it takes too long. And good folk like yourself are popping up CICs and businesses everywhere because there's a flaw in the system and there's a gap in the system, and clearly that's why you've done it. Yeah. Because you probably found that it was hard for yourself to find the help when you needed it. I mean, was that the case as well when you started?
It definitely was, Dan. I mean, we've probably gone on a bit of a tangent, but I think going back to what we were talking about before, you know, when my story, I guess, which led on from that point I downhill, that guy, it's probably the best way to circumnavigate around to it, because, you know, when I experienced what I experienced for a good 10 years, you know, I never went to the doctors because I never asked for help because I didn't really, one, I didn't feel like I needed help, even though I definitely did. But two, I didn't think anybody could help. And I was wrong, because absolutely people can't help. But when I went to the doctors, you're right, I sort of mustered up this courage to go like, right, okay, enough's enough. Like, if I don't do something, I'm not going to be here. I need to go to the doctors, and I did, and it felt liberating. I was like, I got this fantastic, I mean, it's not the experience for everybody, but I had this fantastic nurse who listened to all my problems, and we talked for an hour. She put me in touch with all these psychological wellbeing services, which was amazing. But then I was hit in the face with the fact there was a 8-month waiting list. I was like, how is that the case? And, you know, you're right, as you said, Dan, that was exactly what made me set Space up. It was exactly what made me do it, because I thought, I've waited 10 years to open up. I've opened up, and now I've got to wait another 8 months. I'm telling you now, I did not have 8 months. To a degree, I think Space saved my life, because I had the idea for Space. I wanted to help lads, and that sort of kept me going in that interim period. I got counselling within about 6 weeks, which was good. But therapy, which I really needed, that was a good 8 months after that point, and a long time that.
It is.
8 months is a hell of a long time.
It is. 24 hours is a long time.
It is,
when
mate.
you need help.
Yeah, it is, and it was for me. How I felt was, it was. I couldn't honestly wish that on my worst. I said this on the day. Would it be easier if I just go over what my story was for you?
Do.
Mate?
Yeah, I know. The thing is,
that.
just a bit of context. I know I've interviewed James at a platform called Storyline.
Yeah.
And James, your full interview is on there, an hour and a half, and we really go into the detail and the background of where you're from, the upbringing, and what I love about it is you're a normal lad from a normal background, but this has still happened to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I want to try and get across.
That's the message, innit?
So, and people can go and have a look at that. But if you want to just kind of,
I'll give you a
give us a little brief kind of synopsis.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I told you about the thing at Downhill, and then basically when I was 16, my parents got divorced. I took it hard, as a 16-year-old does. I was right in the middle of my GCSEs, and it was hard. So the ensuing months after that, when I joined sixth form, were a bit of a mess and a bit of a blur. Struggling to come to terms with mum and dad splitting up, because we were a really, really close family, and it was something that was totally out the blue. So it was really tough. I sort of fumbled through life after that. I joined the Royal Air Force in 2012 and got medically discharged from that. Sneezed. Honestly, sneezed, got me medically discharged, which is ridiculous. Put me back out. I was ill and I turned around. I was having my breakfast. I turned around and I sneezed and I went, slipped a disc in me back. I was like, sound, get in.
Well, does that not kind of go, bloody hell, I kind of doing that right? Does that click in or not?
Oh, mate, totally. I mean, that was the first, I dropped out of sixth form, then I went to the Royal Air Force, got medically discharged there. I went to university. So moved out in Bristol and went to university, did biomedical science there. I cannot believe I passed that degree. I got a degree without honours, it's called. But I did it, got there. Proud. For a long time I classed that as a failure. So that didn't exactly work out to plan. So, my sort of adolescent years were filled with failure. It was lots and lots of failure. I had a million different jobs, careers, tried to move away, whatever it is. I've had about 15 leaving parties because I was moving all over the world constantly. So, it was filled with a lot of failure and a lot of different challenges. But ultimately, it's just because sitting underneath all of that was somebody who was deeply unhappy, and I hadn't addressed it. So, what that person who was sitting underneath all that was resentful of himself, ashamed of a lot of different things, and ultimately that led to me being suicidal. It's crazy to think about now, because I haven't been suicidal for 5-6 years, something like that. Not even a single thought, which is amazing. But that wasn't the case. And after a good 2 or 3 years, I would say I wanted to kill myself daily. So when I drive about in the car, I'd look for not people to crash into, but I'd look for the most opportune moments to crash my car.
So you thought about it?
Mate, every day. Honestly, I don't think people actually, when I say this, maybe I'm just desensitized to my own story, but I don't think people actually, there's people who definitely do understand, but I think people who haven't been there don't understand the gravity of how sad you feel. Yeah. Like, if you imagine the worst day, we all wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day, we're either a bit snappy to our partner or crap day at work, and you just kind of pull your head up and everything just feels like it's going wrong. I had that for 10 years. That's what depression was like for me. It was just this wave after wave of just sadness and relentless shame and anxiety and feeling like my brain was shriveling into something that wasn't really fit for purpose.
Kind of eats into your self-esteem, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, it does.
And it affects you physically as well.
It does, man. And honestly, I feel like I suffer from something now called long depression, so I call it. Yeah. And I'm convinced it's a thing, because that length of time I experienced depression for has affected me physiologically massively. Lots of different things. So yeah, when I was suicidal, and this one day, I mean, I hadn't tried. This one day I decided I was going to do it though, because I've been working at ADF, and it was a horrible place for me to work at the time. I'd tried to move to Canada, but I'd wanted to kill myself when I was there, and I came home and got a job at ADF. It was awful for me. So I came home, was going to do it, and I just decided I wasn't going to this one day. I was set on doing it, and I was just sat around, and something in my brain just niggled at me and just said, right, Jim, you've got too much to give. So exactly what I said. You're not ready to die. And so I stormed out my bedroom and went to the doctors and asked for help, and that was where we are. Asked for got the referral through the counselling therapy, but that day when I was sat on the breakfast bar with my mum, I was crying and stuff, and just telling her about everything that had been going on, just pouring everything out. And I'd said, Mum, I want to help other lads get out of this. That's what I said. So for me, it's weird. It's like space has always been coming for us. It's always been on that path. But I'm lucky to say that because I'm still here.
Because you had to go through that to get to the point where you realised I need to help other people, and that's my purpose now.
Yeah, exactly. I think before all this, especially as a young lad, and I think that people are like this anyway, but, I don't think I behaved particularly well in some social circumstances. I treated people not very well in some circumstances. There's things I've done that I'm really not proud of. But I was just somebody who was sad and hurt and trying to find his way. Going back to that social status thing, I wanted to feel part of the gang. So, when we're talking about shame and not expressing myself, it was because I didn't want to feel like that anymore. So I would behave in a way, and that's why I asked you if you're a people pleaser, because I am, and I would behave in a way that made people like us. Mm-hmm. So I was always well liked. But really, in my mind, when people say that, I wince inside a bit, because I'm like, well, yeah, but like, why was I well liked? Is it because I was just generally a nice person, or was it because, I felt like that was the best way I could get through life without feeling that feeling anymore? So we've all got a story, we've all got it's. But I think for me, everything that's happened, and now I feel so much different about life. But everything that's happened is, I feel quite lucky for all the bad things, because look where it's took me, and I feel like the people I've met and the conversations I've had and what I'm doing now with my career is like unbelievable. And I went from, and I said this one day to John, a guy I know at the Vic, I said, like, I felt like I went one day from like I can't do anything to like now I feel like I can do anything. Mm-hmm. Like at one point I was like, which call center should I go and work at, because I didn't feel like I had any skills. Where now I'm thinking about like, okay, what's the next business I want to set up? Where do I want to go? What do I want from my career? Like,
that's a massive statement, isn't it? A massive,
it's huge
shift.
Yeah, because you never think you're going to get there when you're in the thick.
Oh mate, and that is the message.
Yeah,
that's the message for anybody, because you're right. I am a normal lad. I'm not some like, I don't know. I just had a normal life. I'm just a normal person. I think like going to football. There's nothing special or significant about me other than the fact there's no other James Fildes. That's the only unique thing about me, I would say. But yeah, like if I can go from being depressed, miserable, aimless, no purpose, to somebody who feels full of purpose, and I've got a partner, I'm a happy relationship, I've got a little girl on the way, I've got like a home, I'm all these different facets to my life, which at one point could never have existed. That reality didn't. That reality didn't exist for me. I've said this a few times before, but I never thought I would reach 30. Like that was always for me. Like I'll never be 30-year-old. I'll never be an old man. That is just not the life. I'm never gonna get there. Yeah. Like now I'm like 32, 3 years into a business, and like running my own business. I've got a little child on the way. I've got an amazing partner. I've got a home. I've got a really full life.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to come. And like that's the important thing for me now, is that like I've got a future that I'm looking forward to, and I'm scared to lose, rather than a future that I didn't see. Mm-hmm. Which for me is like, I feel lucky to be anxious about my future. Do you know what I mean? Think like, God, I don't want to die. I don't want to. Yeah. I want everything to go well. It's.
I think for me, James, you definitely sit in the bunch of people who I've talked to who've been through a massive thing in their life, but It was the acceptance, and I can see in people's eyes that anxiety and that just there seems to almost be a freedom in how you speak to people.
Yeah.
You don't seem that there's any guard.
Yeah.
You seem like you've got an open door and you can walk in and ask and talk to you about anything.
Yeah, I do.
And that's what I find about people who've been on the edge and got through it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I totally agree, Dan. It's funny because like my girlfriend Alice, she like when we first were getting together, like she'd hear me talk on calls and stuff, and I'd like be telling people I was like suicidal and stuff like years ago, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you telling people that?" And I'm like, "Well, I have no shame." It's funny what we talked about at the beginning about shame. I have no shame about what's happened to me.
It's your story.
I'm an open book. You know, like for me, I wear it as a badge of honor now because I'm thinking, well, I came through something hard and I pulled myself out of it. You know, and I've been able to use that pain to help other people. So, you know, I don't care.
I think it's massively important. I think I've talked about this loads of times when you look at the corporate space of that now, and we talked about this just a couple of weeks ago. I think it's getting more and more important that people take ownership of that and they're vocal and they're completely open book about it.
Yeah,
you've got to take ownership of like your journey. You have to,
of course,
and to be true to yourself and to vocalize that and to actually love people or engage with people. They've got to know who they're engaging with.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there should never be any shame in being completely open with what you've gone through.
Yeah, exactly.
And it always troubles me, like if you look at the last 10 years and like the sort of era of having like mental health first aiders and businesses. And I mean, I had a bout of depression when I used to work for government, and I had a period of time off, and I still, the culture within my job at the time was like people talked about mental health, but didn't really talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Right.
Surface.
So like it was surface stuff. It was about what the culture of the business was doing for you and how that reflected on them rather than actually what it was doing for you and how it was helping you. So there's a lot of debate now. You go on LinkedIn. So professional spaces. I actually think there's a bigger for me right now, there's a bigger need than ever to have spaces like that, having people talking about their mental health, because people always say, well, it's a professional space. Yeah, but you know, you're part of a generation of leaders who should be talking about these things openly.
Exactly.
But you're a human who is a professional. Exactly. You're a human first, though, James. You're
human,
a person.
always human first.
Well, ask the question. What does professional mean? If you are a professional, what does that mean? It's you have skills. You're a person who has skills. It's the profession and mindset or mentality or your brain. You know, they're one and the same thing. It's you can't utilize somebody's unique skills as a professional, but then ignore, you know, the frailties of that same brain that produces those skills. Yeah. How can you possibly, you know, divide it to what it is? And this is, you know, the phrase that we would sometimes use is like, stop ticking boxes, start taking account, because that's what we say. It's like, as you said, rightly so, businesses can sometimes just tick boxes. Mental health first aid is amazing, and it's great that it's rolling out skills for people and how to deal with these situations. It's fantastic. But that being said, it's a tool. Some people can use a tool one way, others can use a tool another way. Some people would like to say, we have 100 mental health first aiders. It's like, well, okay, well, so what? So what? What do you do with them? Do you promote them? Do you talk about them? Do you encourage people to go and speak with them? Do you uplift them? What do you do? You know, so that's a prime example of people can use something as a tick box, because it's a fantastic tool to equip your workforce with skills like that. Because it's just conversation and being a listener.
It's exactly the same thing as going, we've got loads of money for the region, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not showing us what you're doing with it.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same as going, there's no point in, we want to champion and support mental health. What are you actually doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing something.
Yeah.
Chris at Ice Guys, he's doing something.
Yeah.
And that to me winds me up like you wouldn't believe.
It does me too, but you know, I'm chair at Washington Mind as well, and there's a lady who works there. I mean, Jackie, who's the chief exec, fantastic, amazing, very inspirational, just a lovely human being. And Kathy, you might have heard her speak. She is just an absolute force of nature. She's amazing. She'd be someone good to have on the podcast. She's fantastic. But Kathy always said to me, I've resonated with me so much and stays with me, and it's in line with what we're saying is, you know, if you're a person looking at an organisation or you are in an organisation dealing with mental health, always say, so what? Like, so what? If we say we've done something, I've got to say to myself, so what? What does that actually mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, so what? What does that mean? And I think that when you ask that question, you address either the density or how hollow something is. You know, is it like, if you say, so what? Say, we've trained 15 mental health first aids in our workforce, well, so what? And if you can't say anything, can't respond, you're ticking boxes. If you can say, but actually we've helped loads of people over in a weekly drop in and you know, this and that, that's your so what. That's the outcome.
Yeah.
Because there's something called the halo effect. I'm sure you've heard of that, where businesses do something good. It looks really good for them, but underneath, where's the substance? Yeah. You know, and people,
virtue signaling sort of stuff.
It's about saying, look at me, like, I put my hand up, I've done something good. But yeah, you know, I've got my frustrations. I tell you what, the one thing's been really interesting for me is, as a business owner, you know, the reason I set up Space as a kick was because I wanted us to have a business model. I didn't want us to be at the whim of a funder. And so, you know, if we're providing this valuable support to people and a funder decides, okay, we're not going to fund you anymore, and I can no longer provide that support, I feel I was doing people an injustice. So I thought, I want to create a business model that can run, generate money, and which will pay for the free services, which is what we do. So working with businesses is, you know, to generate income with our coffee van and talks and workshops. That's how we pay for the free services for lads. Everything we do for the lads is free. Everything. Always will be. But one of the things I've really learned is, like, people don't like paying for it. People don't like, unless you know, people don't actually value, I think genuinely people love the value from a personal perspective. Yeah. But it's really hard to convince a business the value of mental health. There's lots of reasons for that. I think one of the things for me would be employment was I feel one of the biggest reasons so many people are feeling quite low is purpose. I think we're lacking purpose as a society and as individuals. If I want to go in and talk to people about purpose, that might potentially liberate a few employees from their workplace. Why would somebody pay me to come in and get people to feel purpose? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Better.
Yeah.
More self-worth.
Why would they do that? So it's a really hard balance to strike, you know, because you've got to ultimately provide benefit and good to the business, which you absolutely should. But then also you've got to really balance that with, I want to make sure I'm providing like accurate support and really appropriate support.
Well, that should say more about the business, that they should have an open door to go, come in, James, because we know who we are.
That's exactly it,
to our employees.
It's a really good point.
That should be it.
It's a really, really good point.
And then you should be, if you're enthusiastic and championing this stuff, you go, right, great, what can you do next time, James?
Sometimes businesses don't want that. Exactly. They want you go back to the halo thing.
Yeah.
They don't want you to drill too deep.
No. Well, this is the thing.
But it's mad, but it's like they want to see that they want to see that they're working towards the solution, but they don't want to address.
People want to address the symptoms.
Yeah,
exactly.
They don't want to address the cause.
Yeah, but you're not getting everybody outside with your pickets and flags and that. You know what I mean? You're not getting. Come on, everyone.
Yeah,
let's leave this place. You know. Yeah, it's madness.
It is. Because I know for me, when I was in a pretty bad place, people could address my symptoms. You know, they could really help me. Like, if people could, I don't know. Tell you what, you said, help my symptoms, and this wasn't a healthy way. I'd go out with the lads, you know, I'd socialise, but I'd be drinking too much. So, you know, it made me feel better for a day.
Masking.
But then instantly, afterwards.
Well, I want to jump on, as you mentioned, the coffee business, and I absolutely love what you're doing. You're taking, it's like, we've got the cup on the shelf, because I saw you outside the gym, and I was like, I've got to put the cup on the shelf. You're taking the message to the street, you're taking it to the business, and I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a coffee van, you're delivering the message to people as well as trying to earn money for the business, for the message that you're sending.
That's exactly it. Because if you think about it,
great idea.
You know, what's the biggest challenge we have with lads is opening up. I wrote, me and a partner of mine, we wrote a business case to Sunderland City Council. I don't know why I'm saying Sunderland City Council. Sunderland Council.
Posh version.
It is posh, isn't it? I know.
Get the title right.
He's a man's file on edge, man. I'm joking. Yeah.
Be doing my phone voice shortly.
Yeah. Push voice, go push phone.
I know. My girlfriend takes the piss out of my voice when I do a podcast and stuff. Cause she says like, you always say my instead of me.
Yeah, I'm buttering it up, man, James. Relaxing, eh?
I know, exactly, yeah. So I'm going to start talking more slang. What was I saying? So I wrote a business case about a year and a half ago to the council, and through that we did a lot of research. We looked at something called the National Confidential Inquiry into Suicide and Safety in Mental Health. So that's written by University of Manchester, but Professor Lewis Appleby. So he's the government advisor to suicide, and he's helped to get the real-time suicide statistics, real-time sort of regular suicide statistics for the government. Amazing fella, absolutely tremendous bloke, for what he's done for men and health and mental health. But one of the statistics that we found within there was that 73% of men who take their own life have had no contact with any service. So they're a total sort of misnomer, a total anonymous person to services. So these are blokes who have just never went to doctors, they've never asked for help, they've never done anything, they've just did it. So for me, I was going like, well, so I'm asking people to come and speak to us. I'm saying this is services here, the support here, which is good, and there's a group of people who are happy to take that support on. But I was like, if they're not going to go to the doctors, why would they come to us?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was, I thought, I need to think of something, how we can go to a business. So at first it was, we're going to do talks, and we go and do like workshops and stuff. And the uptake was okay, but it didn't feel right, So I was working in a lot of coffee shops. And when I was younger, I didn't drink coffee. I hated hot drinks. Never saw the point. I was like, well, why would I get some? I've got to wait 5 minutes for it to cool down. I was like, what's the point? I just want it now. I was a fool. I was a fool because I love coffee now.
Some people don't like coffee.
Snob, yellow teeth and that of coffee. I'm not bothered. I love it. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time in coffee shops working. It was a nice place because when you work on your own, you set your own business. Yeah, it's isolating, because I've been on my own for 3 years. Really, I've got an amazing team of volunteers, but the day to day is just me. So I was sitting in coffee shops and I'd watch these people around us who didn't know each other have conversations, and I had some amazing conversations myself with just these random people, men and women, who just taught me over coffee and just chatting. I was like, something interesting here, isn't it? Like, why is it that people don't so much go for a pint on their own anymore, but people go for coffees on their own.
Yeah.
I was thinking, why do people talk to each other? So I thought, like, okay, maybe I can do something like this. And I thought, why don't we just do something to do with coffee? If it was going to be a coffee shop, and I was like, still not right. And I thought, why would I a coffee van? I thought, people talk to each other over coffee. I want to go to people rather than them come to us. I thought, if I can get a coffee van and I can pull up somewhere and serve somebody a coffee and have a chat with them, bingo. I was like, that has to be it. And instantly they're just like ding, 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 ding. Like it was just like the alarm bells were going like, this is it, this is it, this is it. And you sometimes have you read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Light?
No, I haven't.
Read it.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it's like, basically I got this green light in my head. I was like, go for it. Do it. Go for it. So I did. Took a long time planning because we had to raise money and do the right work and all that kind of stuff. And then, as these things happen, when the wind's in your sails and you put yourself out there to do something different, we were a little bit short and we got this just 10 grand off this bloke. He just came and said, we're gonna get you some money. It's 10 grand. And I was like, it was like the last bit we needed for the coffee machine. The coffee machine in the van to get it all kitted out. And I was like, what? How does that happen? But it's ultimately, you've got to just put yourself out there, haven't you? And just say like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do it. So we did. We got the money in, which was amazing. So it was a year's planning. But then we set the coffee van up. And what a success it's been. Amazing. So we've so far we've spoke to thousands of lads, literally thousands, which we'd never have spoken to if we were waiting for people to come to our support group. So the idea is, we get in the van, it's all branded up, it's got full barista set up in the back, got a grinder, we've got the coffee machine, fridge, the lot. I mean, it's a proper, and the coffee is amazing. Gold Box Coffee in Bladen, massive shout out to them, you've got to try them. So basically, we get in the van, we've been working with Travis Perkins, the UK's biggest builders merchant. Perfect demographic for us, hitting lads who, white van men, like the lads who got the vans, and honestly, some of the conversations we've had.
So how did you stumble upon that then with Travis Perkins? What was the approach?
So Actually, so the regional director, Travis Perkins, Johnny Holland, I had him on LinkedIn, and how I would usually do things is, when I try and put content out there, I see who likes it, see who interacts with it, and I usually just send them a message. I'll just say, hi, how are you doing? Saying you've been like no post, or and I just send him a message about the coffee van, and this Johnny was just like super up for it, like really, they're a great organisation, like they really look after, because I thought it was going to be to support the men who work there in the yard and in the warehouse. But no, he was like, no, we've got loads of lads who come and use the yard and buy stuff. This is perfect to help our customers. And I was like, wow, what a forward-thinking mindset. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So went and met up with him, and we had a chat and got on, and that was it. So they've got, I think, 12 sites in the northeast, and we're halfway through doing all their sites.
That's great. Imagine what that looked like 10, 15 years ago, though, James. That would never happen, would it?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
And you know what, mate?
I think it's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We were down at Hartlepool, and we had ITV coming to film us, and we had this guy come up, and he's pull up in his van, and he pulled up and he said like, oh, this is amazing, this mental health stuff. So he said mental health stuff, and he was like, I lost my brother last week, and I was like, wow, what? And this guy just opened up this wave of emotion about like how he lost his brother, and his brother didn't ask for help, and blah blah blah, and it was like really powerful, but like we bring the lads with us, bring the lads with us to do support and talk and chat, and all the lads were standing there talking to him, and we were just like, this guy said he just felt amazing to be able to talk about this in this sort of in this environment, and it just felt like one of the moments where you were like, God, this is really important that we do this.
Yeah,
it's really important.
Did you get that uptake straight away? Like the first venue you went to,
instantly,
straight away,
instantly. Everybody comes up.
Mad. Yeah, mad.
Everybody comes up to us and they say, I could write it down. Oh, what's this like? Straight away. What's this like? Because what we try and say is, if the lads walking past, they'll always like side eye us and think, what is that? And we're going like, all right, lads, fancy a coffee? Free, because Travis Burton's pure, and we give the coffees for free.
Right.
So he's like, all right, lads, fancy a coffee? As soon as you tell them it's free, they come over. We make them a coffee, give them a leaflet, and we've created something called our mental maintenance toolkit. What that is essentially the lads can, it's designed and branded about to look at men who are sort of tradesmen, and the cup, you'll be able to see it if you scan the QR code on the cup.
Yeah.
The lads, basically, the idea is they come and have a chat with us if they want. If they don't, when they go away, we talk to them about the mental maintenance toolkit. Go away when they're drinking the coffee, scan the QR code, read it on the phone while they're just having a coffee in their own time. So we go to them, we give them the material, we tell them that we're here, we tell them the support's there, spreading the message, spreading awareness, and then in their own time, they get to digest it, and they get to think, I need some help, or I know my mate needs some help. And we've had so many people now come to us, messaging us saying like, thank you for giving us the toolkit, and like, when's the walks? Can we come on the walks? How can I help? We've had volunteers, we've had all sorts. So amazing.
That's what I love about what you're doing, and that's what I love about what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned this the other day on that meeting as well. I said it's quite intimidating walking into a room where there's two chairs and you're looking somebody in the eyeballs and you've got to open up to this stranger. People do tend to open up to strangers, but if you're going for a walk, you're kind of walking, you're not thinking about stuff, and then you just get onto a subject.
That's exactly it, yeah.
And somebody will open up just via happenstance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think
that's modern therapy, though, isn't it?
It is modern therapy, having a coffee and going, because you'll go around in a room and go, oh, yeah, so you had a thing happen, didn't you, John? And then go, oh, yeah, so that happened to me the other day. And then somebody go, actually, yeah, that's happened to me as well. And just from that, you feel like you can open up.
And I guess like when you look at, because in many ways, what you're doing, it's filling that gap whereby even like working men's clubs used to be that facility, didn't it?
Yeah.
And it did, and they're dying, and they're, they're closing down, and the people aren't going to them anymore, but it's where people used to go for a safe space.
That's exactly it,
to organically talk about their problems.
What have we got now?
Before, it was working men's clubs, the old school therapy.
It was old school therapy.
Yeah, it was sitting in a bar and a natter to his mate. That's what he needed for them.
Yeah. But when you look back on that now, you see them for the progressive places that they actually were. I know there was criticism around, certain facets of working men's clubs and certain behaviours within them that weren't right.
Yeah.
But they did address lots of other things that were really critical.
Yeah. You can't kind of lump it all into like...
No, you can't. No.
Everyone was bad in a working club. They're all trying to avoid something. Actually, they might be trying to
breaks
talk
my
to
heart seeing them
somebody,
get close them down now.
Yeah.
You know,
It's terrible. I mean, they were like bastions of community, weren't they? And we're working with UCL, like University College London at the moment. We're doing like a project with them, and what Professor John Tominey, who works there, he talks about is like they're really, really sort of keen on like looking at the coalfields in Durham and the history of Durham and the history of the North East, County Durham, I should say. And he talked about it. He says, we cannot mythologize about what life was like back then. It wasn't amazing. There were still suicides. There were still lots of problems. But at the same time, there were regular social gatherings. Whether it was the pub, whether it was the workmen's club, whether it was down the shipyards, down the mines, just out and about. Whether you went to the butchers, the greengrocers. There's so many different aspects of the community, and you spoke to different people. Whereas
purpose, mate.
Purpose, mate. It is. It's such a it's so like fragile, and I think we've lost so much of it. If we think about purpose, for me is like, some people think purpose is just like, okay, what is the thing that like I'm destined to do or something like that.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be that. Purpose can be feeling like you're just useful, feeling like you're contributing to society, like feeling like you're contributing to something bigger than yourself. It doesn't have to be some melodramatic thing where you got to want to save the world, and that's purpose. Purpose can be love raising my kids. That can be your purpose. I love raising my kids. Purpose can be I run a charity. Purpose can be I've got a job where I earn a lot of money, doesn't fulfill us, but on the weekend I drive vans for Daft as a Brush, helping people who've got cancer.
Totally,
It's totally subjective.
Well, that resonates with me, going back to a story that's been on this podcast, and a story I know quite well, with Screaming Chimp. Because Neil has got a suicide story, and actually, he completely lost his sense of purpose. And what turned his life around was somebody giving him a chili plant to look after.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
And he was like, defining himself, and his only purpose was to, I think, if I remember rightly, the person who gave him the plant says, your only task is to keep this plant alive. If you can't look after yourself, look after this.
That's
and it changed his life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It started his whole business.
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, how good's that?
What an angle, isn't it?
What an angle. I mean, like, taking some responsibility or getting some responsibility, I honestly think it just writes here in the world, like a little bit. If you've got, it's not the cure. There's not such thing, I don't think. But it's like, if you're somebody who's walking about with no responsibility, or no aim or no purpose, or no feeling like you're contributing to anything, or I'm like, where do you stand? How do you work out your place in the world? And that is a perfect example of somebody who's just been given something to care for, and he's got a reason to be. If he's not here, the chili plant's not here. Yeah. And it's like, that's so. I think that's the
danger, though, isn't it, of like the modern world. I look at, like, going back to the social club thing, but it's like there's a lot of institutions that have been demonized over the last 10, 15 years. But I don't think people realize that actually, like, whether right now we're in Sunderland or whether you're in Newcastle, and you look at the roles the football clubs play in communities like this, it's because the gravitational sense of purpose that people have being part of those communities has defined these areas for decades and decades and decades. And you pull that out, and it's just this huge big void. And I think people sometimes overthink what purpose and meaning and community means.
Definitely.
When actually they're right under our nose, right on the doorstep.
Football's a massive one. I mean, for anybody who's at the match of the night, if you ever want to see the embodiment of what purpose and community and togetherness is, just there you go. Yeah, there you go. It was just.
I shed a tear. Like
I've never.
Did. Yeah. It was incredible, wasn't it?
My calves and my shins are black and blue, just off kicking seats, like just losing my mind totally. I mean, I thought I was going to pass out. Yeah, I ended up with 3 rows behind. I'd smashed my mate's glasses. Like, it was just totally and utterly abandoned. All, like, you know what I mean? All the faculties are just gone. You're just like, right, okay, this is euphoria.
Let loose.
Yeah, it was euphoria.
Yeah, it was absolute euphoria. But I think like football is something that's important to me, and people say it's just a game. It is a game, but I've been going to football. I mean, my dad took me to football, I think, Played Liverpool in 1997 at Roker Park. I think that was the first game I went to.
I was there.
And I got my head stuck in the railings. I was only little, but I had a big head. So I got my head through the railings and I couldn't get back out. So the stewards had to pull the railings while my dad pulled me. And, that was my first memory of football, was that Liverpool match in 1997. And, I've been going to the match ever since then. It's been a part of my fibre.
Roker Park, that as well.
It was, Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I was born 92. So, I was 4 or 5 year old getting to my first game with my dad, and my dad's football insane. And he passed it on to me. My brothers my oldest brother's not very older brother is more so, but I've always just been in my blood. But I think about football and how much of a part it's played in my life, huge. And I honestly, when I was in a bad place, especially when I was down university, football at times is what kept me going. And that sounds daft. Genuinely, just it grounded us, and it felt like that was something I could identify with.
Yeah.
And it felt like something that was mine, and something that was I felt like I had a place in the world when I was watching the match.
It's funny you should say that though, because I'm trying to stick on the Sunderland theme, but it all links together. I was just listening to a match on the radio a couple of weeks ago, and I actually WhatsApped Nick Barnes on the day, because he was commentating, and they got somebody, I think a guy in his 60s, called up, or he put a message into the radio to say it'd been his lifeline.
Yeah,
because he had mental health problems, he had physical problems, he couldn't get out of the house, and he said that his link to the club had felt like it had been diminished, and he didn't have that connection. And it was listening to the radio, retained that connection, and he felt like it kept him sane and kept him feeling part of something.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Powerful.
Yeah, but Nick said, he says, just that one message, that kind of that there keeps you kind of going. It keeps you kind of going. At least somebody out there. I'm doing something on purpose for somebody else, as well as doing something that you want to do.
Definitely,
do you know what I mean? It's like double whammy, isn't it? So
I think that thing about doing stuff for other people is really important.
It makes you feel good though.
It does. We've done some work with Sunderland University, and I asked them this question because they were a really, really impressive team there at Sunderland Uni, the School of Psychology. So it was Becky Owens, who's the head of the school, and then Mark Ord and John Rees. So they're doing a paper at the moment on a review of the mental health services in Sunderland. I asked them, I was like, what do you think about altruism? Do you think altruism's real? And they all laughed, and they were like, no, it's not real. It's when everybody does something for everybody else. When you do something for somebody else because it makes you feel good. They might be simplifying their argument, but for me, genuinely, I think it is a thing, because yes, it does make you feel good, but sometimes it doesn't. And I feel like if I do something for somebody, it's just because I know there's a net positive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I debate that, because I think altruism is the thing. I think feeling good about an action is just an after effect of the action.
I know. It's not your reason for doing it.
The action. It's not exactly. It's not. You don't do something setting out to. So if I do this for that person, I'm going to feel better about it, and I feel good. To contextualize that, right? If I do for Space, for instance, we have support groups every Wednesday and every Saturday morning. Now I've done that week in, week out, me and a team of volunteers. I must have missed it 2-3 times max over the 3 years. Every Wednesday, every Saturday. I'm telling you now, I'm not giving up my Saturday mornings because it makes us feel good. I'm absolutely not. I'm doing it because I know it's important. The walks are amazing, but I would much rather be having a chilled Saturday morning with my girlfriend, having a coffee, thinking what we're going to do today. Do you know what I mean? I would much rather that. I get that.
But I'm doing it because I feel like it feels like a responsibility of mine because of what I've created with Space. But also I know people need it, and I also know the implications of me not doing that. Is, just like the working men's club and just like the shipyards and the pubs that have closed down, you take that away, and I look at all the people we've helped. We're over 500-600 people now we've helped, men in North East.
That's massive.
If I think about if we weren't here, all those people, what would they have had? And I look at the times we've coached people through these really tough times and supported them, and some of these people have made best friends in these groups, and they go off and just socialise together and support each other in their own time. If we'd have taken that away, what would some of these people have done? We've had loads of people say to us, if it wasn't for Space, I wouldn't be here. And I think
it's a series of
isn't that
a series of sliding door moments, because if your experience, of going to see a doctor, imagine you didn't have to wait for that period of time.
I might have just been
just got to see a doctor, got a solution, got some therapy, it was done, and he felt great, then space would never happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if that was the case and it was fast, then these guys might have the opportunity to get in there quick, and you might not need that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's kind of, there's many ways to kind of...
There's a bit of a nuance though, right? And like, it might be a bit controversial, this, and I'll try and frame it the best way I can. So I'll just say it how it is. So I personally feel like, from what I've seen through space, and from what I know of the lads who are on the wait lists, some of these people don't necessarily need to be in that pipeline. So like, if you think about the sheer variety of problems you could have, so we always say there's a million and one reasons how you can get to that point of depression. If you imagine a big sort of bottleneck, and like you can have like job loss, financial difficulties, debt, gambling, relationship breakdown, clinical depression, no reason why I'm feeling depressed. Million and one reasons how you can get to that point. But we're all sitting there at that one point in that bottleneck going, okay, I need help. That's the singularity. That's the one point. Now, to get out of that, when I went to the doctors, there was one route out, and everybody was channeled down that one singular route. Going in that waiting list, see a counsellor, see a therapist, everybody was in that. I didn't know of any community support. And this, bear in mind, this was in 2018. There was no community support as much as I was aware of. I know there's Andy's Man Club and stuff was around them, but I hadn't heard of it then. So you've got all these different people in Sunderland, the North East, just all these variety of problems, all getting the same treatment and all getting the same pathway through. And then all that was happening was this huge, huge backlog. And then people who were in that waiting list, unfortunately, some of them would have taken their own life because that's a long time to wait. Some of them would have got through and gotten the help they needed and they would never come back into the system. Some of them might have got some help but came back in because it didn't address the real root cause. Some of them were just medicated and medicalised and might not have been depressed. So like, when I'm looking at it now from the outside, I'm going, well, I'm absolutely not discouraging people from going to the doctors. It's what they absolutely should be doing. But what I am encouraging and I'm trying to amplify are the things that can support you in the interim, which might help and be more appropriate. So something like space. So if you say, let's use you, Dan. Imagine your relationship's broken down, you're having a really hard time, and you're feeling really low. And you've never felt this before, but you've been feeling this way for 6 weeks, and you're starting to feel a bit suicidal. Okay? So you've had a relationship breakdown, you're almost grieving this relationship. You're feeling terrible. Now you can go into that waiting list, and you can go and see a counsellor and therapist and talk about, which would be absolutely great. But what about if you went to say you were accessing community support in the meantime while you were in that waiting list, and you had a group of people who were just supporting you through it, guiding you through it. You were allowed to process and allowed to talk about how you felt and say, I'm really sad about this relationship. It's terrible. It's blah, blah, blah. And then 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, 12 weeks later, you've had this regular contact, this regular touch point in your week where you're talking and opening up and processing and understanding how you feel, understanding why you feel the way you feel. And it doesn't come from us, it all comes from you. All of a sudden you start to feel like, well, you know what? That time in my life was a tough time, but it's over and I just needed some support. So maybe I don't need to be in that waiting list anymore because I feel okay.
Yeah.
I've overcame that tough time and now I can just get on with my life. So it's that everybody who needs help should be going to the doctors, I think. This is some mental health support. It's a first protocol. I always would say that and let them decide whether it put you in touch with social prescribing or community groups. But there's something to be said about the fact that we don't have those regular touch points of community anymore where you can vent these problems and talk casually about, I'm having this crap time, I'm having a shit time, I need help.
Well, it's the immediate, isn't it? That's what it is. That's important.
Of course it is, but it's almost, I see it almost like, and it's going to sound like I'm downgrading the conversation, I'm not. I had an experience, I lost a friend to suicide, 2009, and he did go straight to the doctors. But I see it almost like, remember Kaplunk? You take one straw away and, like, you don't know what the right solution is for an individual.
Of course you don't.
So you've got to make everything accessible to them.
Of course you do, yeah, definitely.
Because for one person, going to a doctor might be the solution, right? And they go on that pathway, like you say, they might get medicated or they get blended support and psychotherapy or counselling or whatever. Sometimes some people just need to talk and talk then and now and openly.
Yeah.
And they don't get the opportunity to do that. And sometimes being in, like, from experience, being in a clinical situation it sometimes doesn't bring that conversation out. And I guess what's so powerful, what you're doing is you're almost like a Trojan horse with the coffee van, because you rock up and you disarm people. It's like we talk about people coming through on the podcast. Yeah. You disarm people by the fact that they come to you with no expectation. It's the most comfortable place to talk in, isn't it?
Just have
there's no like, there's not a doctor across a desk.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there's not all the weight and the stigma that comes with that. You're just having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah,
that's a really powerful thing, and I think it's been like social prescribing and things like that. I don't think people fully realise the power of conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's a soft approach,
and how that is therapy in its own right.
It is.
But it's communal.
Yeah,
and I think that's totally. The whole word is community. And what's a community? A bunch of people.
Exactly.
Familiar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It is.
Easy to talk to. It just tick, tick, tick. That's what it is.
Yeah. Definitely is.
But it's,
Do you identify, like, it's who you identify with, who you feel. And there's no, creating communities is a massive, it's an adventure. Creating communities for people is amazing. It's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
It's like when you see, like, you bring people together who ordinarily would never coexist, and they create these little groups and these little communities together. Such an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And the healing that happens for people is just as good, you know. And
yeah.
Honestly, lads, I wish I could tell you, I wish I could just show you what I've seen through my eyes over the past 3 years. Is unbelievable. Like, we've given well over 400 hours of support, and I mean that's talk and support free, but that's as a group setting. So when we worked it out, it goes to about 6,000 individual hours of support. So that's individual. So that's like you. So if we both attend a 2 hour session, it's 2 hours for you and 2 hours for you, because you've received that support individually. And it's like 6,000 hours is like, some people have received that full 6,000 hours themselves because they've came from the beginning. And when people come to us, they usually don't leave. You know what I mean? So that's like and when you get to see the changes in people, is the greatest feeling in the world. When you get lads who turn up who've having a really hard time talking about it, and then they're nervous, and then they cry, and then they get upset, and then they come back next week and they're a little bit better, and they have a step back, and they have another step back, and they move and move and move, and then before you know it, when 6 months has gone by, they are like a different person.
Yeah.
And their life has turned around. They've got a job. They're moving. They're doing better things. They're recognizing their dreams, what their visions are, setting goals for themselves, exercising, thinking about the future. And you look and you're going, he's got his life back. You know, he's got his life back. And for me, that is just like, how I can't think of a life more fulfilling than that.
Yeah. Well, then they'll go and help somebody else, and it's a kind of knock-on effect, isn't it?
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Start a chain reaction.
Yeah. It's amazing. That's just,
it is.
It's probably one of our deepest podcasts we've done so far, James. You know, yeah. It's tough, you know what I mean? Because I've interviewed you in depth, one-to-one, and it's hard for me not to revisit that and go into that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm trying not to kind of go down that road. But it's really hard because trying not to go into that. And I've heard it, but it's sort of, there's so much more that we can discuss today, which has a different effect, you know what I mean, and a different benefit. And especially with the coffee stuff. And a coffee convert as well. I mean, come on, what's that like? Are you addicted now, are you?
Honestly, all the lads are as well, like coffee snobs. Coffee snobs. There's a lad, honestly, Steve, who comes, who's one of our volunteers. He didn't, when we went out in the van, he's retired. He's actually my old teacher from school. Okay. He volunteers, which is a bizarre turnaround. He taught me in school. And then now he comes and he works for me as a volunteer, which is weird. I still call him Mr. Coleman, like he's from St. Aidan's, Mr. Coleman. What a legend. But anyway, he came and he came out the van. I said, "Do you want a coffee?" He was like, "Nah, don't like a coffee." He's from Southampton. He's like, "Nah, I don't want a coffee." And I was like, "Right, no bother, mate." Sound. So anyway, he was watching us make them, and I was teaching them how to do them, because that's one of the benefits of the van. You know, any of the lads who come to the groups can come with us on the van, and then we teach them how to become baristas. We teach them how to make coffees and stuff. Good. So it's giving them like a bit of some skills and purpose, and they get a real passion for it. We're working with a guy called, we're going to be working with a guy called Luca next month, the month after, with Gold Box Coffee. He works there, and he is the #1 in the UK.
Really?
4th in the world. He's currently in Indonesia at the World Championships for being a barista. I didn't know that was a thing.
Really?
He's one in the country, 4th in the world last time. Right. So he's going for #1 this time. So he's going to be teaching us.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, coffee snob. Didn't like coffee. Watched us making them. I taught him it. I was teaching them the art of it. You know what I mean? I was look at the crema, the smells. I was like, try and taste the coffee and try and see how it feels. This has come from a bloke who would only drink like Nescafe like 3 years ago, and now I'm like talking about notes and tannins and like, can you taste the vanilla in there, Steve? Yeah. And he's like, now he's like, soon as we get a gap in service, can I have a coffee? You might have a coffee. Let me get on there. Like, here's a coffee. And he's just top, bless him, because he's 70. He's just turned 70. When he's like proper, he's like dead into it. You know, he loves it. He's getting passionate about it. It's such a good feeling that. You know what I mean? It's even these little things are a class to see. With the coffee is like, it's became a real, like, I love a coffee now. Yeah, I just love it. I do. It's became one of them unintended consequences of.
But there was like a light bulb moment. Like you didn't like coffee, you didn't like hot drinks. Then what was it?
Yeah, what was it? What turned you?
I think so. I made that like. It's happened with me quite a few things. I think it's probably just maturing, you know. But like, I used to think, how could anybody ever drink beer? Mm-hmm. And then I would start to drink beer, and I would hate that at first, but then I loved it. And I'd think the same about red wine. Oh, red wine's disgusting. Then I tried red wine, and I was like, oh, tremendous. The coffee was the last thing for me, and I was like, my mate would always have a cappuccino if we went on holiday, right? All the lads would be getting a pint at 9 o'clock in the morning, everyone hating it, but thinking they were being cool. Yeah. One of the lads would get a cappuccino. He used to get rinsed. I'd be like, what are you doing getting a cappuccino? Oh, what a fool I was. Like, me drinking a horrible steel pint of beer, I think that was class. But I think when I became, it was when I got back into work in the NHS, and I think there was a coffee van used to come outside. It was in the centre of Newcastle. And I used to struggle on the mornings. I wasn't a morning person at all, because I liked my job, but it was, travelling on the A1 in Newcastle, soul destroying. So there's a coffee van outside of work, and all the lads used to get coffees, and I just sort of tried it one day, and I was a bit like, it's a lot better than Nescafe or that. Like, I was thinking, but I had like a latte or something, a little full of milk. And then I started to think like, well, on a Saturday morning, like, I enjoyed just going to a coffee shop, like, and having a bit of food, like Faustwood on the seafront. And then, one day I think I just got I got a cortado, because I thought the word looked cool. I was like, what's a cortado?
Sophisticated.
And it absolutely blew my mind.
Nice.
I was like, that is the best tasting coffee I've ever had. And we're not from Costa. Yeah. This one. And then I started to like try different coffees, and I went to Fausto, and then it's really peaked with Gold Box and Bladen. You should go if you can. Yeah. It's in the Trans-Britannia industrial estate in Bladen, and they've got like the roasters that are out, so they roast the coffee in front of you, like there's just, and they've got Luca and the guys who are amazing baristas. And I started to like just be obsessed with how shit a coffee can be and how amazing a coffee can be.
Yeah, but when you go back, that's when you know how shit a coffee can be.
Yeah, it is. But like even a barista made coffee can be shit. Yeah. So I started to think like there's an art to this in there. It's like an experience. Yeah. I was like, I always loved. I used to be a cocktail barman, and I loved making cocktails. Yeah. And I was always. You did Richard Coleman. So I used to work at his seafood temple down South Shields.
Coleman.
I was going to say about your teacher, actually. He said Mr. Coleman.
No, he is Mr. Coleman.
Are you sure?
He is Mr. Coleman.
It's
Coleman. I know. I used to call him Chad. That's what he used to get called. But anyway, I worked in his cocktail bar in the seafood temple. And it was like, I don't know if you've been in, but it's like a
bar.
I used to work in there. So it's a great spot on it. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. So I'd sit there, and I used to love making like cocktails, like martinis and stuff, and like it was a bit artistic and a bit like you were just creative. And people used to love the experience. They were obsessed with the experience of it. And that always got me. I was like, well, what's the difference between going to, I don't know, like a beautiful cocktail bar in the Shard in the middle of London and paying 80 quid for a cocktail or whatever you'd pay, and then going to somewhere in Sunderland? What's the difference? Because spirits for the most part are the same. Yeah. There's not a huge difference. So what is the difference? And for me, I was thinking it's all about experience. It's the only thing. It's the theatre. It's art. It's like it's amazing. So, with the coffee, I started to think like, well, maybe the coffees are similar to the cocktails. It's like who prepares it, how they prepare it, what they use to prepare it, the beans they use, all these different things. And I was like, this is amazing. I was getting a bit hooked, and I was like, this is proper special. And then one thing led to another, and I've just became like, I just love it. Yeah. I mean, I just love it. Like the guys at Gold Box, and I've said the name about 5 times, but they do like audits to the farm in Brazil where they get their rancho beans from, which is like a blend. It's lovely. And but they go over to Brazil and they make sure that it's all like, that's why we picked them for our coffee van.
Yeah.
Because it's like if we were helping people with mental health over here, but then we're buying coffee from people who absolutely rinse farmers in South America, it wouldn't really be ethical.
It doesn't fit ethos.
Yeah, it doesn't fit our ethos. So, but they go over and audit the farms to make sure the farms are paid appropriately, everyone's treated fairly, which adds to it, I guess. But yeah, honestly, the coffee is just, I'd wax lyrical about it all day. I feel like it's just...
It's good though, but you got that artistic kind of side, that flair in you, because you did cocktails and now you can do coffees, but you care and you pay attention to it because you give a shit.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's giving a shit. And I think well, that's, for me, life's all about just learning a bit more about yourself as you go and you start to unpack these parts of your personality which you didn't necessarily understand. And I've always been like I guess a creative person, when we do space, like the branding and the design and stuff. Like I got Jack Hands, one of the designers, my friends, he designed our logo and stuff for us. Then when it comes to the brand and the marketing and the messaging and stuff, like I do it myself because I feel really passionate about it, and I feel like I'm a creative person, but it's just something I never thought of myself as being.
Yeah, transferable skills of hospitality. It's no different to what we always talk about with production. Yeah, like film production or event production. It's attention to detail. They're all the same things.
Yeah.
So I imagine that given time, we could all hop on each other's lives and probably start replicating each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just about a certain mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And people would know me in Sunderland now as somebody like, people say James from Space. That's what I called me TikTok, because I used to have a TikTok, but I called me TikTok James from Space because people would say, "Oh, it's James from Space" when we're doing network and stuff. Oh, it's James from Space, and I'm like, sounds like I'm an alien. But I was, and I was like, or if I go into the workplace, I'd be like, "Hi, I'm James from Space," and I'd be thinking, for fuck's sake, I need to get a different sort of line.
Just call yourself the Spaceman.
James the Spaceman. But people would know me as that, but like actually talking about creativity, I've got like I consider myself as more of an entrepreneur than somebody who just does space, because I've got a lot of business ideas. But like talking about that creativity thing, one of the things I do whenever I think of a new business idea, I've got something called my someday shelf, which is where if I've got a business idea, I write it down, talk about what it is, give a bit of a summary, like an executive summary of what it is, bit of an elevator pitch, and then I'll leave it. And it sits. If it still niggles away, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, I know it's got legs, I know it's something I want to do. If it dies, I cross it out and it's done. But for each thing, I create like a branding pack for it. So I create the logo, I create the meanings behind it. And it's like, I love deconstructing like what things mean. You know what I mean? So like looking at a brand, taking it apart, looking at what the slogans are, what does it mean, what does the colours mean, what is the, you know what I mean? All these different aspects. I've always loved that. Obsessed with it. And I feel like that's why talking about giving a shit, I think with brands, it's all about, it's like it embodies what the values are as your business owner.
It transfers, everything's transferable, because it's kind of who you are. When you talk about being creative, you go, so you do this for a living. No, I do lots of things.
Yeah, lots of things,
it comes under the umbrella of being creative, like you're talking about with the design. What does that mean with the copywriting, with the text that you put out there, everything else? We're making a film, we're doing the photography, we're doing a podcast, we're putting clips out. It's all the creative side of who you are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And
it definitely you care about one, you're going to care about everything else.
That's exactly it. Definitely.
So,
I think creation's a good thing, because I worked with a lady who was Jess Williams. She works for a company called Just Williams. Well, it's her company. And we're talking about values, and that's something I've become really passionate about. Values is like, if I'm feeling a bit conflicted, I've got to ask myself, am I acting in line with my values? But one of my values is creation, and it's something I never thought about until recently, where I was like, actually, that's like that creation is that something I'm really passionate about, something that was always absent from my life.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to audit yourself almost, that it's sounding too like HMRC, but audit yourself about like, what is it? What are your values? And are you acting in line with them? Are you a man working on a plant in Nissan, but you love people?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to feel too great about that. Or are you somebody who loves things and you spend all day behind a desk talking to people all day? You're not going to like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's about just trying to, I don't know, values I think are really important.
Well, we've started that. It's exactly the same ethos from the start. Is we have that as well with local heroes. And if it doesn't fit with that, we're not doing it. Simple as that. I don't care what bells and whistles you throw at the thing. If it doesn't fit, it's not right, we're not doing it. So,
why would you do it?
Because that's the thing, but something else will come. And we know for a fact that it will.
Exactly.
But we're going to drive our thing forward. So you can't escape it anyway.
Exactly.
So that's it.
100%.
Well, I think we need a someday shelf rather than a here now. tomorrow.
Someday Chelsea good.
Well, the thing is, we've got, similar to you, we've got things which are all ready to rock and roll, but it's kind of what comes first, because some things have got to go up to the next level of the rung of the ladder.
Of course,
what gets pulled first?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked to you about the project as well, and that's had to come down the list because other things have gone up the list just because of opportunity. That's all. So, but it's still there, and it's going to happen, and I know it is. So
definitely, mate.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question as well?
Of course, mate, no.
So would you consider yourselves co-founders of Local Heroes? Would you?
Talked about this, did you?
How weird.
Can you read my mind or something? Because literally, before you walked in, I was like, I don't like the word director, because this is us and who we are. We created this thing.
Because I said it's getting called, what was that saying? Market trader? Market manager. And I said, it makes me sound like Pete Beale of EastEnders.
Like, it sounds so bland.
Markets are just a very small part of a thing that we do.
Yeah.
For me, it's a founder.
Yeah.
Because we are founders. But,
founders.
It's tough, especially when you transition into one world into something else, but it's similar world.
Yeah, of course.
And it's the people that have a problem with the sort of description of what you do and who you are. Because if something's already attached to you, how do you break away from that to fit it in with something else?
Yeah.
For me, it's the same thing. It's who I am.
But this has been like, I'm not sound silly.
Put it up and prove it.
You do. This has been like therapy for us, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you go back to what you were saying before about speaking honestly. When you're talking about speaking honestly about suicide on the phone to someone, and your partner says, "What are you doing?" This is the first time we've kind of come out of the blocks, and you've got different versions of yourself, right? I always say it's like the Russian dolls. We've got like 9 different layers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, you never know which sort of layer is going to come out on any given day. It's the first time that we've opened up all 9 layers to everybody.
Yeah. That's good.
And this is us.
Yeah.
Like who we are with our tone of voice.
It's good because you know what? The thing you've got to remember is everybody has that. So when you think what you're saying is totally unique and you're the only person in the world who has those fears and those anxieties, everybody does. So, for me, rule number 1, if I think about marketing, something that I love, I feel like advertising and marketing, rule number 1, the person, your audience, has to see some of themselves within what you're seeing.
Yeah.
They have to see themselves. So if I'm doing a marketing for space, like that mental maintenance toolkit, if I'm trying to market a mental maintenance toolkit to blokes, I need them. It's for free. It's not to sell, but for them to read it and want to see themselves in it. If I did it pink, and if I did it like really fluffy and soft, they wouldn't read that. You know what I mean? So it's like, but when you put like, you make it like nuts and bolts, and you know what I mean?
JCB.
But I know it's a bit stereotypical, but at the same time, they see themselves in it and they identify with it and they read it and they go, "Oh, that looks like me." It's the same thing with this. Is if you open all them 9 layers, people watching that will identify with that, because I guarantee you everybody's felt shame, probably had some interaction with suicide in one way or another, at least the threat of it or a worry of it, rejection, social status, all these different challenges. Everybody feels it. So we can all pretend and wear a mask and say that this is who I am and I don't feel any of them things, or we can just be like, well, you know what, I'm a human being, we're not perfect. I feel these things, and it's fine.
It's just pulling the curtain back on who you are.
It is,
masks are off.
Some people don't like it, but I love it.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff, like when I talk about long depression, like some of the things I experience now, like when I talk about it, makes people think like, how can you say that on a camera, or how can you say that people? But I'm like, well, if I can say it confidently, I know there's a million other people feeling the same way. So if I can say it confidently, well, so can they.
Yeah.
First, whenever I was feeling bad, I felt some sort of way. Like one of the things I experienced when I was depressed was I had like low sex drive, and that was something that I used to really, really like hold inside with real shame. Like, God, I'm not a man. I don't want to. And you know what I mean? I'm not like constantly after sex. You know what I mean? I didn't think I was a real man. And so what I would do with that information is I would go and search for somebody who had also had that experience, but you could never find it. So when I came out the other side of all that, I thought, well, all right, I'll be that person.
Yeah,
I'll be that person that says, well, that's what I experienced. Do you know what I mean? And I think it doesn't embarrass me. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And if other people are embarrassed on my behalf, I couldn't give a shit.
You don't feel the opposite. You don't feel properly like.
You feel free. You just think like, well, I don't have to.
Why is the big cage bird singing all that, right? You just feel completely liberated from yourself.
You do, because you stop worrying about these things and you're going, ultimately, I'm just a person, and we're all just little meat machines walking about on Earth. And
meat machines.
well, we are, aren't we? Like, we're built up of, God. Have you ever seen, there's a picture of the nervous system. I'm a proper science nerd, I love it. So there's a picture of, like, have you seen them Centre for Life have this thing called plastification? It's where they take the human bodies, and it's real human bodies, but they go through a process where they can basically look, you can use the muscular structure or the nervous system or even the blood vessels. They lay them out so you can see them, what it actually looks like inside.
Yeah.
So there's one where they use the nervous system, and it just shows you they've stripped all the body away. The only thing they've got is the nervous system. And I'm telling you now, when you look at that, that's everything that controls you. That's your thoughts, your feelings, your movement, your pain, everything in your nervous system. It looks like some sort of sci-fi alien parasite. Just these big googly eyes, a brain, and these little tentacles.
I saw that, isn't it?
I
saw that.
It is bizarre.
That
is you.
That's you. Just
that's
ripped
you.
Out.
It is.
It's almost like
it's
Predator
you.
pulls your spine out.
Aye.
Like a space octopus.
And you've got people walking about on Earth thinking they're like, thinking that these.
You know what I mean?
It's amazing, man.
Octopus. That's what it looks like.
It's dressed up.
People think that these infallible people who've got
bundle.
like, I'm better than you, and you think, well, inside you're just that little alien parasite, and I know you are. You know what I mean? And that's all we all are. So why complicate it? We're all just people trying to get by.
You're right. Fantastic.
I'm very passionate about people just being people.
Well,
Make machines and alien parasites.
But it is just bringing it down to that level, and I think if everybody did, we'll all have a nice conversation. There's no hierarchy in the room, and that's the whole point in walking through here. We have a conversation, you sit down, we'll have a natter. That is it. That's where it should start.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Wait, James, time for the menu. So pick any two or anywhere you want to go, and then we'll do the Greg's order last. So anything on there, mate? What takes your fancy?
What takes my fancy on here?
We'll
so what do I just pick?
Just pick any.
See them as topics.
Topics
right,
from
okay. Crisps.
Right. Okay. Good one.
Crisps
I like when people pick a crisp question.
Right.
Top three. Do you do top three?
We kind of do. We'll mix up a little bit here and there. Do you know what I mean? So crisps.
You're
a crisp
man,
fan, yeah? All right, okay.
You've got a particular brand of crisps. Why? Have you?
Right.
So you said that were absolute certainty.
Well, he took a swig of water, so I'm strapping in for this one.
I'm fucking ready for crisp talk.
Let's go. Crisps. Top three.
The number one, unchallenged, almightiest crisp gone, Walker's Chili Sensation.
Right.
Really? All day long.
Yeah.
Share a bag of Chili Sensations. If I say the Nectar Price in Sainsbury's Chili Sensation, I'm like,
so things going on that response. Nectar Price.
Mate, honestly, bag. I'll sit and make. I'll make.
Are you sharing
our tea? No, I'll make our tea. And I'll eat a bag of. I'll just share a bag of crisps before me tea as a starter, as a chaser. So I'd go Thai Chili Sensations first off. Tremendous crisp. McCoy's cheddar and onion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ridge is all about the ridge.
The ridges are incredible.
The flavour.
Well, hurt to say your mouth a little bit.
100% a day.
Like the chili.
Yeah. Love that.
I like the salt and vinegar ones. McCoy's.
I do like salt and vinegar. I'll tell you what I'm not a fan of. Anything like any plain Dorito. No, thank you.
I don't like plain Doritos either.
Nah, me too. But I would say so. Chili Sensation, cheddar and onion McCoy's, and then I'd have to go for. That's tough. This I love crisps. And I've gone for a prawn cocktail. Walker's like.
Yeah, I'm pleased you went for that. I was about to raise the challenge and say you could tell the 10-year. How old do you say you were, James?
16.
How old are you
now?
I know.
32.
32, right? So what's that? 15-year difference. Because my mind always gravitates to the more kind of traditional crisp. You're like Worcestershire sauce, Worcester sauce.
I think,
spring onion crisps.
I think, right. Yeah, where you go
then
back
you went for prawn cocktail, you took us right back there again.
I love prawn cocktail.
Cocktail's great, but I'm thinking like textures and stuff like that. You know, you're talking Monster Munch, you're talking Skips, you're talking knickknacks.
Love a Monster Munch, like.
Because you got the flavour in there.
Beefy Monster Munch.
Yeah.
Beefy Monster Munch.
Oh, yeah.
Technique on a beefy Monster Munch.
Oh.
Bite the legs off first.
Legs off.
Aye. Right leg, left leg, middle legs.
Hula hoops.
Big fan of a hula hoop, aye. Quiver, I like a quiver.
How are you eating hula hoops, though?
Each finger.
You got to, aren't you?
Each finger.
Yeah.
Get it eaten off.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else.
You sound like you got quite a few.
I'm a crisp maniac.
Right,
like,
let's
I love
go
them.
another two, because let's go five.
So you'll not remember Brannigan's, will you?
Why, aye. Of course I know Brannigan's. I'll tell you what I used to like. Lamb was a good one. Came with their salt and shake.
Yeah.
Oh, love them.
Yeah.
Love the salt and shake.
Square crisps and all.
Oh, aye, squares, aye.
Salt and shake with Smiths, weren't they?
Oh.
Smith, I think. Aye.
Smith
The thing is for me, like
Bridgewater Tudor again. There you are.
I'm on the fence. The thing is, I'm on the fence about Walkers because Walkers were never the best ones when we were kids. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Walkers
It was
what
always
do you
like
think?
Brannigan's
What was it?
Roysters,
Roysters,
like a
good
roasted
crisps.
beef.
Oh,
That just
Roysters.
crumbles up. It's
in-
the texture thing,
yeah,
innit? But
yeah,
it's
it is
all about
tremendous.
the flavour for me.
Saybrook's a good make.
Yeah, Saybrook's.
Saybrook's good
They were
make.
always stronger
Yeah.
than anything else.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pickled onion ones would blow your head
Oh,
off.
aye, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
I was never a fan of the Max ones. Yeah, the Max, the big,
Yeah.
super ridge. Never a fan of that. I think they're a bit like style over substance. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Big and trying to be McCoys.
The style over substance crisp.
They
Like
are
it.
trying to be McCoys.
what about a Pringle?
Big fan of a Pringle, mate. Aye, but I mean, the tubes are tough ask, innit? Get to the bottom,
It is.
and
Like,
you
isn't
get
it?
your hand,
Without,
and you're
like,
like
you know,
It's a pouring thing, innit? You just gotta like go.
sour cream and onion.
Is that classed as a crisp though? Did somebody mention Pringles not classed as a crisp?
no, isn't it like a VAT thing, a bit like the Jaffa cake?
Aye,
It's because it's a
apparently,
composite
aye.
product.
A composite
It's
product.
not technically like it's not a potato crisp.
Well, that's a new thing now. Not have you noticed? Like oat milk is now oat juice or oat drink.
Yeah,
Like,
because they can't call
because
it
they can't call it milk.
Yeah.
Aye. I was saying
Yeah.
it was like cranberry juice the other day, and it was cranberry juice drink. So I'm thinking, what is it that we've been drinking all these years if it's not juice? You know what I mean? Like
It's a very nuanced debate. That it's like when vegans call things like cauliflower steaks, and people go, "You can't call it a steak."
Well, you kinda-
Actually, steak is just a cut.
Yeah, exactly. Aye. So you
It's not
can't call it
meat.
steak.
Aye.
It's a cut
Yeah.
of something.
I think it's the same as when you go for like the vegetarian stuff. It's all like egg based, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or tofu
Mushroom
or something
based,
like
aye.
that. So it
Well,
can't be chicken or sausage. What is it?
Chicken.
Chicken. All the vowels out.
We're just
Yeah,
taking-
fish nuggets.
We're just taking vowels out of things. Is that what we're
Just take
doing?
vowels out, that's
Just
it,
take
yeah.
the vowel out.
Tom
Take out the
Martin,
vowel,
clever.
ultimate vegan.
Nice. Let's go for another one. Anything else from there?
It's a good list that like
Isn't it?
It's a good list that
It's
I'm gonna
alright.
go. I'm interested in. I'm going between guilty and 3 second rule here because I'm for
alright.
guilty.
Go for guilty.
I'm for
Nobody
guilty.
goes for guilty.
I'm
Now
for
people
guilty,
go
aye.
for guilty.
All right.
You start guilty pleasures, yeah.
Guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures.
Things you do
Aye.
behind the curtain, James.
It's
with
that
food.
kind of, when you've got the fridge open and you're
Aye.
doing something that's dirty and it's out the
Yeah,
fridge.
I
like
know
drinking
exactly what you
carton,
mean.
Or my brother used to like put a tin of ham in a bowl, pour vinegar on and ketchup, and then just eat it with a knife with the fridge open. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's a guilty.
That's fucking barbaric.
That's
That like.
filthy, innit?
I've done a cheese board on the
absolutely
bottom
filthy.
shelf of the fridge. Like
Aye.
You've done what?
Jeez.
I've done a cheese board on the bottom shelf of the fridge.
Have
Aye.
And you've got some chicken and some
Saves the walking,
charcuterie,
like,
just wrap it up,
take
bang. You know what I
Take
mean?
a knife to the fridge and that's it. There's your board.
Fucking
That's
tremendous.
it.
That like.
Like
That is
eating it with the
tremendous.
fridge
That.
door up. It's that kind of stuff.
All right,
so,
I've got you.
on.
So
any combinations? I want to hear your
Trying to
combinations.
think. Combinations.
Aye.
I've got one. Maybe it's a bit weird for you. I don't know.
All
But
right.
this is more of an experience. Like,
Okay.
so I love peanut butter, right?
Yeah.
I love peanut butter. But what I really love about peanut butter is like when you put loads on, it gets claggy.
Oh,
So
I do
like
as well.
I love the clag. So I get like a crumpet, right, which is the claggiest of all like bread things. Loads of peanut butter on, and I eat it.
Smooth-
and purposely
smooth
don't
or-
drink anything.
Smooth or
Crunchy.
Really?
I purposely don't eat anything. Sorry, drink anything after it. And I let my mouth get as claggy as possible and as dry as possible, and then I neck loads of milk, and it just absolutely wipes it away. And I sit there just
You
like
make
some
it sound
sort
like
of
a sort of stag
some
do
big
ritual or something
overgrown
like that.
baby just sitting there, just like milk drilling off my face. That is the greatest thing I've ever tried. Absolutely love it.
So right, you got to break this thing down. So what is it? Is it the time in between
clag, mate.
crump
It's
of
the
the
clag.
milk? It's the clag
Aye,
time,
it's
yeah.
the clag.
It's better eating the
Peanut
like
butter
eating the
is-
crackers without having a drink, sort of thing.
Aye, but
Yeah.
it's like, what's the challenge to you? Because if you're just in the room on your own, what is that?
Well, it's as I say, it's the experience. It's just what it's like. You put yourself through. It's like that delayed gratification, you know. Like I used to with my dog, right, my little dog Baxter. He loves peanut butter as well. Loved peanut butter. So when I'd give him peanut butter, right, I used to do this thing. And I used to make us laugh, and it's cruel, really. But I'd go to put the peanut butter on his tongue, and I'd stick it on the roof of his mouth. So for the next hour, he'd be going like licking for like an hour. He loved it, like. But I think like when I get the crumpet and the peanut butter, it's usually just like a late night. I'm bored. I want to eat something. So like I just slap it on and I'm just like eating it, just loving it. And then I'm aware of how like horrendous I probably look eating it. Like it's in sound as well. It's disgusting. But then like once it's all just like settled and the peanut butter has gone anywhere, it's like cement. I'm like, it's milk time. So I'll go and stand in the fridge, door open, and just drink it out the fridge and just be like, this is the best moment of my entire life. I absolutely live for it. I haven't done it for a long time, so maybe it's the time.
Tonight.
Oh, we're planting the seed now.
It's clag time.
It's clag time.
Clag time.
It's clag time.
I
don't know if I've got any more, to be fair. Like,
no, I think, that's very much tick that one off the list. I think.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good one, that, mate.
Clag is good, isn't it?
3-second rule. Like, there's parameters on this. It's all about what you're dropping, where you're dropping it.
Should be really,
Really.
Yeah.
But we know what it is.
Texture of the ground is important.
Yeah,
It's
so
not really about the
3-second
time.
rule. It's not about the time. It's about where you are, what you're dropping, and what an experience you've had through that. What's the worst thing you've dropped, Nate?
I'll give you an example, actually, before you answer.
Okay.
I was making some, you had roast veg today for your lunch. Did that the other day, right? Middle Eastern style with some giant couscous.
Mm-hmm. Gets everywhere, doesn't it?
I dropped the couscous. I dropped the couscous.
Yeah.
It fell between me big toe and middle toe. And I gotta admit, like, I just pick it up with me thumbnail and just
Get in there, son. Yeah, I felt I got two. I'm proud of you for that. Like, that's tremendous, that.
But I'm just, you
But it was so opportunistic.
Right,
how where it landed, it was like,
is this
right. And I could see it.
You'd have been fool not to do that.
Well, it was like a sign. I was like, it didn't hit the floor. Hasn't hit the floor.
No.
It's hit my body. It's
Yeah,
going to go
exactly,
into
yeah.
my body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Too right.
Are we talking clean foot? Are we talking dirt foot?
End of the day.
For some reason, I was going to say clag foot.
Clagfoot.
I don't know what clag foot
You're never
is.
going to think about clag in the
Probably
same
in
way.
betweeny. I've been wearing my Birkenstocks.
Birkenstocks.
Been milling around a bit.
That's not
Probably
bad.
a little bit
But
of.
it's not like, you're doing like a 2-hour hike or something. Then you.
Berkey's is all right.
Or something.
Berkey's is definitely all right.
Aye. Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So what's yours?
I mean,
example.
you're asking the absolute wrong person here. I'm the least germophobic person in the world.
Right.
Couldn't care less where it lands, how long it lands for, if I want it bad enough. So I'm like, I think if I dropped a burger when I was making burger the other week at my sister's, and I was in the back garden and I dropped it onto this just like patch of gravel and soil, and I just picked it back up and I just blew on it. And I just
See, that's always the bone of contention.
Aye.
It's always the texture of the ground. We always go, if it hits soil or gravel, that's
The
it.
thing is,
Game over.
right, the worst thing was it wasn't fully cooked yet, so I just put it back on the barbecue. So maybe had a bit of like burned gravel on it as well. Like,
you've added a different element though.
You
Hold on,
kind of
though.
finish it
Texture.
off. All the stuff's falling off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How about you? When
Here's
we've
a
always
good
talked about
one.
gravel or soil, actually, if a burger hits a gravel or well, soil,
You could rinse a burger and bang it on the barbecue.
you definitely can rinse it.
Yeah.
Like, definitely can rinse it.
It's an easy rinse, like.
That's an easy rinser, a burger.
it's an easy rinse.
It's an easy rinser.
Just because in the toe is not an easy rinse.
Oh,
like, is it?
I'm trying to think what else. Like, honestly, I'm not squeamish at all. Like, if a crisp fell in my belly button, I would like eat it. If
Aye.
it just landed in there,
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
wouldn't care
Well,
about
crisp,
that.
man, do you know what
I'd
I mean?
actually
Can't
consider
waste-
that fortunate, to be honest.
Well, I told Cy King at Christmas, Cy King was giving out all these ruffles, the raspberry ruffles, chocolates.
Love them.
I found a bit on the back of my neck the next morning. just,
Little friend you found.
The raspberry ruffle on the neck is tremendous. Like, that's a fucking belt of that. How do you know it wasn't like a skin tag or something that I like just came out?
but it tasted nice.
He tried. He went in.
That's it,
He
like,
found the
yeah.
result.
That's it, yeah.
So, yeah, you got the result there.
I've eaten a bit of,
What's the worst thing you've eaten off the floor then? It's got to be like a night out pizza, like front down.
oh, without a doubt, I've done that. Like, trying to think, I don't know,
Nothing more.
because I don't know. I mean, I've picked bits of cheese off the bottom of the oven before, like
Have you?
a bit of
Melted.
like
Oh,
hard, bit crispy cheese. I've done that before.
It's a cooking vessel.
It isn't it?
Cooking vessel. Yeah, it's already in there.
It's not a floor
Getting
surface.
cooked, is
so
it?
the whole
Acceptable.
thing's up for the whole.
Yeah.
It is.
The whole thing's up for grabs.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, anything in that box.
See, I'm just not squeamish at
No.
all. Like things that actually don't bother me. So it's like I feel it all just melts into one. I don't think. I'll tell you what. Actually, here's one. So when I was young, I was about 13. So when I was 14, I got pneumonia, right? But before I got pneumonia, and I'm convinced Harrods chocolate gives you pneumonia now. So I got pneumonia in the September. In the September. And then I'd gotten it. Someone had given us a gift of an elf from Harrods chocolate in the Christmas before that. So this was like a year-old chocolate that had been down the side of my bed, and I didn't know it was there. So like one night, I'm just like middle of the night looking for my phone charger or something with my torch on, and I see this like half-eaten elf chocolate. And I was like, get in. 3 o'clock in the morning, let's get that bashed in. Ate the lot. 2, 3, 4 days later, I've got pneumonia. So I'm like, I'm pretty convinced. I mean, I know causation and correlation aren't the same thing. I'm pretty sure that chocolate gave me pneumonia.
You are the only person I've ever met who had a similar story, because I've got a similar thing, right? With a dime bar.
Pneumonia?
Right? I can't eat a dime bar. Honestly, I can't stand them. Because the dime bars used to be DIME.
100%.
And then they changed to the sort of
100%.
whatever it is, the B&M version.
This is not a Mandela effect thing, is it?
Right, so dime bar. I had a dime bar from a corner shop called Holes in Heaven, right?
Right, okay.
And the next day I had a really bad flu, right? I've never ever since had a dime bar.
No, sure, yeah.
Even if they come in like gift boxes or other things, I just push them aside.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Like I can't, my brain thinks they'll make me.
Don't believe it at all. I like.
Imagine all confectionery carried diseases.
I know.
Maybe that's the big conspircy.
Big chocolates on her or something. They're trying to wipe this out.
I think he got the worst one, pneumonia.
I know. But I remember I put on MSN. Can you remember MSN? Did you ever use that? MSN, I put in my little status like pneumonia with like in between each letter was like a star. So it was like as if like everyone, I've got pneumonia. Like what the fuck am I doing? I think I spelled it like NAW monia as well. Like pneumonia.
It's not old monia. It's pneumonia.
It's the old school monia, right? I wonder what monia is. I've got plenty of them. Like,
lovely. I'll tell you what, right, let's do the last one. What's your Greg's order?
See, when I've watched your podcast before, right, and I've watched the Greg's order, I've always not looked forward to this question because I feel like it's shit. I feel no, the question's not shit. My answer's shit. I feel like I'm basic as fuck in your mind.
Go
on.
Pepperoni pizza slice.
Aye.
I'll tell you what.
Basic.
One time, right, me and my girlfriend were in the Lake District, been for a massive walk. We love a pepperoni pizza. Well, I love a pizza slice from Greg's, and we were starving off the back of this walk, pissing down. It was quite a class day, but we were like desperate, so we're searching our phone. Greg's 35 minutes away, but it closed in like 37 minutes. So we're like, let's get there. Flew down to this nearest Greg's, and we're like hoping there was a pizza slice in there. And it's pissing down. Everyone's running out of Greg's, and there's like the doors open, and it's like the light shining out of it. And look in the window, and there's fuck all there. And we're like, we've drove nearly like 40 minutes the other way. This Greg's not going to be there. And I kid you not, we walked in the shop. One there, pepperoni and a margarita just sat next to each other, and we looked at each other. We were like, what has just happened?
Halo circling.
It was just like, this is the greatest moment ever. So we went in and had our pepperoni pizza slice, and I thought, after that moment, I just thought, it doesn't get any better than this.
That's genuinely like a holy grail moment, isn't it?
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Like, it's one of the moments where you go, that will never happen to anyone else ever again, because it was, it's a bit dramatic maybe, but it was like the ultimate. Yeah. The ultimate. So I'd probably say pepperoni pizza slice. I did, back in the day, used to love a chicken mayo baguette, but they changed the recipe for the baguettes. They're always stodgy now. They used to be crispy.
Yeah.
The ham and cheese baguettes used to be full of mayo, which they're not anymore. They're just dry as sticks.
Yeah, how was Greg's one again?
I know. How about Greg?
You just heard the Holy Greg story.
I know. Sorted out Greg.
Story, right?
Mr. Greg. And I remember so my mum was always like not a health nut, but she would always make me say really healthy in school. So our packed lunches were always like brown bread with like salad and cheese or something. And then like, instead of dairy dunkers, we got lye cheese, like ridiculous. Yeah. So she thought she was being super healthy. But when I was old enough to get out the town by myself, I just gorged myself on everything. So I used to spend 20 quid on like custard cream donuts. So now custard cream donuts are like a bit of a thing as well. Like, kind of
you still carry that on. Right? That was good. Yeah? That was good. The thing is, we've never heard the pepperoni pizza, and also
the story attached
to it is more important. Because imagine if you want to call me pasty,
you
wouldn't. You'd be disappointed.
You'd be like, for fuck's sake, just a pizza slice.
Yeah, just give them a new idea for a campaign. Though, say, how far would you travel? Yeah. A bit like, the cream egg. How would you eat yours?
How far would you travel?
Yeah, how far would you travel?
Race around the world. Race around to Greg's.
Yeah, I would do that. Like,
you've got right, there's 40 minutes left before it shuts. And it's 38 minutes to get there. Can you get in
just
there?
Got a picture of that now, though.
I would love that.
All wearing like blue boiler suits and that.
Oh,
like Challenge Annika.
Greg's run.
Yeah,
it's the Greg's
helicopter and that.
Exactly, aye.
That'd be good, that.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. Like, I'm a big fan of Greg's. Get to the chopper.
It's a crack of that, though.
It's a belt, isn't it?
Love it.
I thought my Greg's order was going to be shite, but
great one.
It's a good order. I like the story as well.
Good.
Happy.
I love a story.
Yeah.
Love story.
Anyway, thanks a lot, James.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
pleasure.
Like,
Thank you,
it's been good. Good crack.
Cool. Thank you.
Mint.